Well, hello there. Welcome to another episode of DCU Daily. As always, welcome on in. Hope you guys are doing well today. I am Daniel, of course, your host. And as we usually do, today we're going to kick things off with the news, and then we're going to get into some DC news specifically. And then we have to talk about lanterns. There's some news about lanterns potentially coming out, a little bit sooner than perhaps we had initially thought. So we'll get into that and so much more. Of course, as always, to do that with me, I've got John. How are you doing today?
Wearing the wrong shirt. My bad. But well, we are gonna be getting into like generic superhero stuff, but yeah, doing good. Kind of tired. Got some chest pain, but I'll be fine.
Well, if that chest pain gets any worse, be sure to get that looked at. In the meantime, yeah, I mean, I'm also tired. But yeah, let's kick things off with the news, shall we?
It doesn't seem to matter what I do. I'm always the number two.
All right, mister, I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding. You're kidding. I can't open the envelope without the...
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne.
I like that. You're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see
right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
What the needs now?
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much. Oh, wow. Wow.
All right, okay. Well, it's time for some news, so let's get into it. We have so much to get into today because, well, as always, of course, we usually have a lot to talk about, and I found a few things today that are newsworthy. Let's just say that. The first of which is this new trailer for the Robert De Niro starring, and he's not just starring in it once but twice. The Alto Knights. It's coming from Warner Brothers. It releases later this year, I believe, right? So the trailer looks very interesting. John, you watched the trailer. What did you think about it? What did you take away from it? I mean, he's playing two versions of himself.
This looks fucking great. Like, not gonna lie, I know Barry Levinson hasn't really done anything of note for the past like 20 years, but it looks damn good. Like, it's got the writer of Goodfellas and The Irishman. It's he directed Bugsy, so he's done a lot of good stuff, and I hope that this is maybe a little bit of a comeback for him because he was a very good director. He did Diner, he did Good Morning Vietnam, he did Rain Man. He's done a lot of really good stuff, but yeah, this looks really awesome. I know it's like, oh, Robert De Niro in a gangster movie. I know it's like, but it's like, you know what? It looks fucking good. Like, I know people are like, oh, it looks like Diet Martin Scorsese, and Diet Martin Scorsese is better than like 90% of the shit coming out today. So like, I'll fucking take it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Diet Martin Scorsese, like, exactly. I think you said it about as well as anybody. I look at the two versions of the characters he's playing, and I mean, yes, he is obviously still the same person. Like, as it's Robert De Niro both ways, but he looks different enough that I don't think I would be super confused in the movie, and I'm sure the way they're dressed, the way the hairstyle, like, one of them wears the hat quite pretty much in every shot that we see him in. And then we see this, right here next to each other. I mean, there's a difference. I mean, they're admittedly still very much both Robert De Niro, but I can see the difference. It's interesting though, because usually when you see a same actor playing two characters, they're meant to be, I don't know, like twins or lookalikes. But in this case, it seems like, Robert De Niro just decided, I can do both roles. Why not? Because it's not like the story calls for it. It's not like they were twin brothers and
no, it's not like, it wasn't like Tom Hardy in Legend or anything, but it's kind of an interesting tidbit, I guess, like in the way of like doing things. So, you know what? Screw it.
Yeah. What was the saying that, like, Robert De Niro
like when he said the greatest actor he's ever worked with is himself. This is what he was talking about. So that was the top comment on the trailer, and I'm like, yeah, that's good.
Well, I mean, the people who are behind The Irishman, Goodfellas, and of course Bugsy.
I will say it
they're
does
the
have a
same ones here,
stupid
so.
title, like the
He
Alto
also,
Knights. When I first saw that, I'm like, is it like about a jazz band?
I
Is it like
right? It
an
makes you think
anime?
of
It sounds like an anime or something
yeah.
weird like that. Like it's a very weird name, like Goodfellas, The Irishman, stuff like that. That sounds like the Alto Knights. I don't know. Could have come up with a better title there,
Yeah, I
in my
agree with you.
personal opinion.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man, and it's coming out March 21st, so it's not that far
Yeah,
away. It's gonna be here before you know it. Of course, Robert De Niro these days chooses to act alone. He's like,
I
I'll
guess
play
so.
them all. I'll play all the
One
characters.
one man, one man play.
What?
What is
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
Whatever.
one man band,
One man show. That was it.
one
One
man
man
show, one
show.
man band. Well, speaking of never mind. There's no transition there. Culture Crave. Remember the other day we looked at like the big IP movies coming out this year. They put together a nice graphic of that. Today I found another graphic. I mean, they just love putting logos on a screen together, and they're really good at it too. So Culture Crave
Yeah.
put this together. I found it on Threads. I thought it was worth kind of going into because it's just a diversity of franchises here. Some of these people don't probably even realize are Sony properties, but basically Sony Pictures, Sony, Pictures Television.
Are we getting another Richie Valens biopic?
I think so.
La
Is that,
Bamba
isn't
was
that
already a movie. Are they remaking a biopic?
What? As far as I'm aware, it's on the list, man. It's on the list. Let's just kind of go through this. I wanted to kind of get your opinion on what stands out to you, right? A lot of these titles are like from PlayStation Studios because, of course, Sony has really worked hard to kind of expand on that part of their franchise. So, I mean, personally, for me, of course, for me, like the most valuable thing on this is anything to do with Spider-Man. Especially Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, or like any sequel in that franchise. You got Spider-Man 4 at the top of the list. You have Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. You have Spider-Man Noir. There's another maybe there's a Spider-Woman movie still happening at some point in the future. There's an untitled Miles Morales Spider-Man live action film that I think they're aiming to work on once the animated Spider-Verse movies are done. To me, the God of War TV series sticks out because Amazon's working on it. And isn't that the one that why am I forget? I forget. Ronald D. Moore. They got Ronald D. Moore for God of War. Do you remember that? Like that to me is exciting. That it's exciting.
Bro's
The Last of Us
getting
season 2.
He's getting space.
God.
He's getting alternate history. He's getting Celtic mythology.
Everything.
Now he's getting Norse mythology. It's
everything. He's checking all the boxes.
I don't know about Norse, but like it's like Greek, Roman, Norse. Because I know they did God of War Ragnarok. That was the newest game. I don't know if they're going to be doing that. I don't know if it's like the original game or what they're doing because I know they kind of blend stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh my God, they're doing like 3 different boys spinoffs. Like
The
really?
Boys Mexico. Oh yeah, that's
what?
Gonna be
It's like Narcos now. We're getting Pablo Escobar, but like with superpowers. Like, is that what it is?
I'm interested in seeing how the Horizon Zero Dawn live action version turns out. I also didn't realize that Ghost of Tsushima is gonna get a live action movie. That would look interesting if they really do it well. I mean, obviously we've talked about the anime. It's been like a week, maybe a week or two ago. We talked about the fact that they announced the new Ghost of Tsushima anime. You can get it on Crunchyroll. Metal Gear Solid. That to me is something that has potential. If they do, I love those games. I can't wait to see that in live action. Uncharted 2. I don't know if that's still happening. That would be Tom Holland, right? That's another Tom Holland project. So yeah,
maybe. I don't actually don't know because the first one bombed. So I don't know if
I
think they said they're gonna make a new
it didn't
game.
bomb. It made like over $500 some odd million. I feel like they said it was enough to get another movie, basically at least one more. So yeah.
Okay. All right.
I mean, anything else sticks out? Vince Gilligan's upcoming Sci-Fi series. I wonder what that is.
I mean,
Blade Runner 2099.
I'm excited for the Beatles biopics.
Lead for that.
Okay, who has the fucking Cleopatra fucking movie? It was Patty Jenkins with Gal Gadot for a while. Now Denis Villeneuve is doing one. What? I mean, I'm excited for the 28 Years Later trilogy. I don't get Equalizer 4 and 5 because didn't he like I never saw the movie, but
No,
didn't he like
they
retire?
did announce a 4. Did they announce 4 and 5 together? I forgot if that was.
I don't know,
Yeah,
but
that's.
I've heard Twisted Metal is
give me more
good.
Equalizer any day of the week though.
I'm excited for Spider-Man Noir. I'm really excited for that. I think Jendi Tartakovsky, that dude, always Kino. Karate Kid Legends is great.
Mm.
Until Dawn, I'm excited for that pure. Pretty
Yash
much.
isn't wrong. It's not wrong. Good point. Ryan.
Until Dawn, that is definitely coming out this year. I'm excited for that. I never played the game. I'm excited for it purely on the grounds that David F. Sandberg is directing it, and I hope he can bounce back after Shazam 2 failed, because I think he deserves it. Like the Ghostbusters animated series, Vince Gilligan is always, as you said, amazing. Yeah, that's fucking stupid. Not Vince Gilligan, but La Bamba being remade. Why do we need to see Richie Valens' story again? Like what? Blade Runner 2099. Like that's always great. Metal Gear Solid, great. I feel bad for anybody that's gonna watch Last of Us season 2. But whatever it is.
You know, it's a good point because people are gonna compare it to the animated Miles Morales. So
Yeah.
it better be really freaking good.
And then I've heard Legend of Zelda. That's what I heard a little bit about that. That's gonna be a mighty big oof there. So, we'll see. Street Fighter looks interesting. I know nobody's excited for Mortal Kombat 2 because Cole Young sucks major donkey dick. So, I mean, if they can make Equalizer 4 and 5 work, then cool. But I mean, I feel like the third one, from what I know about it, like wrapped everything up. So if Denzel Washington's into it and he wants to do it, even though he's fucking 70 now, if he can make that work, then fine.
You know what's funny is like the Beatles biopics has just one box dedicated to it, even though they're like 4 movies.
Oh look, Shadow of the Colossus, Andy
Oh
Muschietti's
God,
next
yes, of course.
movie.
That's Andy Muschietti's
Anaconda,
next film.
don't care. Cobra. I am excited for Cobra Kai season 3. I know, or not season 3, part 3 of season 6. I know a lot of people are like kind of sick of the show now. A lot of my but I'm still kind of like the one like, yeah, let's go. Like, I mean.
Yeah. Until Dawn,
I really
Fighter,
liked
I want to
Cobra
see
Kai.
that.
Like, I think the entire show was good. I mean, I'll fucking take it over fucking Stranger Things season 5, even though that show started being dog shit after season 2. So,
I will say, Yash, to your point, we're just looking at the big franchises here. This graphic specifically picked out the big franchises because there's Sony Pictures Classics. There's a lot of other labels that Sony has under Columbia Pictures and stuff where they will have movies that are originals and indies and stuff. I mean, and of course like Vince Gilligan's Sci-Fi series is probably an original. There's Denis Villeneuve's Cleopatra, of course, is based on a story, but like it's his own version of it. So like you can consider it original because it's not exactly based on I don't think it's a remake of the old Cleopatra. Yeah, and so there's yes, this is specifically franchise based. So just
I mean, some of the stuff looks really cool.
I want to see what the Street Fighter and Blade Runner 2099. Those I think could be like
Blade Runner 2099. 20 years. 28 years later, I'm excited for. I'm excited for a lot of things on this list, but not everything.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? A lot of these franchises are there. A lot of them are.
I will say
PlayStation franchises.
The funniest thing about La Bamba, it almost looks like the font of the Batman. So it looks like this like dark and like kind of gritty thing, and it's just like. It's about Richie Valens. Like, I don't know how fucking dark and gritty you're gonna get with that.
Figure drawing calling you out, by the way.
Wow, Anaconda movie with Nicki Minaj. Sign me up if this is true.
Oh, God. Hello, Valak, and that is probably the.
Oh yeah, Cobra Kai is Kino. Like, I will say the best seasons were 1, 2, and 5. Seasons 4 and 6 are good. So I would think season 3 is probably the weakest season because it was more drama based than karate based. But it was like kind of Netflix trying to, like get into I mean, because the first 2 seasons were on YouTube and Netflix was coming in trying to like bring it back, and it like kind of didn't work. It was still overall good. Like, I don't think there's ever been a bad season. Like, I hate how they're splitting this up into 3 parts, but overall, like, I think it's a really great show. Like, maybe it overstayed its welcome a little bit, but I think it is overall a great show. So
yeah. Yeah, that Anaconda movie, by the way, is this year, right? Like, there's a trailer out for it. I am not gonna be touching that with a 10-yard pole
No, it
because
looks. I mean, like
um,
Anaconda wasn't that good of a movie to begin with, so I don't know why they're.
I just,
Maybe
dude,
because
I don't do snakes. I'm like Indiana Jones. I
snakes.
don't do that.
Why'd it
I
have to
don't.
be snakes?
I don't have to. It's just, nah. Uh, we got Fiona in the chat now as well. Hello to you. Of course, Yash is here. Valak is here. Elite Easy E figure drawing. And of course, we had Man of Steel Magnolias. He was the first one to chime in on the chat today. So thank you all for joining in so far. What is this
Figure
Legend
drawing?
of
Have you
Zelda?
fucking seen
Ah.
Cobra Kai? Like, the fuck is wrong with you? Like, everybody I know loves that show. Yeah, some people said, like, oh, it's, like, overstayed its welcome, but everybody I know absolutely fucking loves that show. Like, what the fuck are you smoking? Like, what?
I mean, look, it's not for everybody. I will say that. Like, I think the Karate Kid Legends movie is not really gonna have a lot of overlap with the TV show. And I am interested in seeing just how they move forward with the Cobra Kai
Right.
side of the franchise. So yeah, but yes, Fiona, that movie is in development. The Legend of Zelda, as far as we know, they're working on it. That's one of those ones that's not that far along, but it is something that they're looking to develop, and as they should, quite frankly, because it's gonna be like, you know, a huge hit, I bet you, when it comes out. So, Helldivers live action, that looks a little
They're gonna
more
fuck that
underrated.
up.
Potentially.
Plus, we already
potentially
have
could be great.
Helldivers live action. It's called Starship Troopers. Like,
True. Although, look, the Ghost of Tsushima is gonna be great. I think Sony knows how to do that well. Of course, God
I don't know
of
what I'm
War,
excited for the most
The
out of all
Last of
these. Maybe
Us.
Spider-Man Noir. Like, maybe 28 years later. Probably those are
I
probably the biggest two.
I'm really
Maybe
excited for
Spider-Man or
Metal
Blade,
Gear Solid.
Blade
Like
Runner
that.
2040. I don't have a ton
Yeah.
of like. Maybe I'll watch it. Like the Beatles biopics also looks really good. I'm excited. Lastly,
Yeah.
for Cobra Kai season 6, part 3. But yeah, a lot of this looks great. But like the most is probably Spider-Man Noir, purely on the grounds that Nick Cage is Spider-Man.
Yeah. While like saying in that slate, I will interest in Street Fighter movie. I hope this is an animated movie. Yeah, I mean, hopefully, whichever direction they go in, as long as it's a good story, I think people will go to the movie theaters to see
Easy.
it.
No biopic for Yoko Ono.
God, I'm sure they'll work on it eventually if you ask them for it. So
It's just
Equalizer 4 and
90
5.
minutes of her screaming into a
You know?
microphone. That's just the entire thing. It's avant-garde.
Equalizer 4 and 5, by the way. Denzel Washington. Speaking of till he's 90, I think those
Yeah.
Equalizer movies. Because remember, he almost walked away after the last one, and then that movie did just well enough that he was like, "No, we're doing 2 more of these." And I think they're gonna film them back to back, which I get it. Like
King Kong ain't got shit on me.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? I will watch Denzel Washington beat up people. Just this unassuming, dude just sitting around in a, I don't know, like Italian, little village town
Bistro.
by the water, a bistro, whatever. And he's just, I don't know. It's like a John Wick movie. It's the whole genre of that, like, where it's like a good guy beating up a bad guy. Whether it's Reacher, whether it's John Wick, whether it's Equalizer, or Nobody 2 coming out this year. Yes, give
I'm
me
excited
those
for Nobody
movies
2,
each and every day of the
definitely.
week. I will take them. Of course, speaking of beating up, bad guys, Captain America: Brave New World. We are, as of today, officially 1 month away from Valentine's Day, which also happens to be the day that Captain America: Brave New World, the 4th movie in the Captain America franchise, the first with Anthony Mackie portraying the role of our super soldier, even though he's not really a super soldier, I suppose, but he's got the shield, the mantle, and even the wings. It looks in and of course he's also got that move. He's got that move. He knows how to step on the shield and get it on catch it in his hand. I think took a little bit of training. So
That's great.
I figure drawing asking you is pick one of your favorite Nick Cage movies, by the way. I don't know. That for me.
Pig? Yeah.
not so
I don't know
much.
if it's my it's like what I mean the thing is I would have to look back on like which ones I've seen. It's probably up there. That's definitely one of the best performances he's ever given, along with Long Legs. But yeah, I mean I don't have a ton of faith in it. Like Legend of Zelda, I heard it was gonna be live action and it was gonna be produced by Avi Arad and it was gonna be written by one of the co-writers of Rise of Skywalker. So I don't know how good that's gonna be. But I mean, I hope it's good because Legend of Zelda deserves it. but I don't know how good this is gonna be.
It's a movie franchise that, quite frankly, could be $1 billion franchise. We just hope that when they get to it, they do it
Just
right.
get Peter Jackson to direct it.
Oh,
Just make
that
it
would
Lord.
that's
Just
the
make it
dream.
Diet Lord of the Rings. Like
That would be the
just
dream.
Boom. Watch the
Hell
money
yeah.
roll in. Jose is pissed that you don't have the vest. I liked Mario Brothers. I like Super Mario
I'm sorry,
Brothers.
Jose. You know what? Maybe I can switch into the vest later. We'll when we get into DCU Daily, I'll go and grab it.
Yeah, that'll be the DCU Daily vest. That's what it is.
DCU Daily, exactly. Where is the vest? Actually, I know exactly where it is. I'll go find it later.
Hello, Jose. But yeah, no, I liked Super Mario Brothers the movie. Like that was good. The new one, not the fucking Super Mario Brothers from the 90s. That sucked. But
by the way, the reason I brought up the Captain America being 1 month away, other than the fact that it is 1 month away, and we did talk about the box office weekend projections the other day, so do check that out. That's on the channel. It could make up to 100 million on the long 4-day weekend, but at the very least, it's going to be looking somewhere between 86 to 95 million dollars on that opening weekend. Now, the reason again why I brought it up today. Is because I found all of these writing credits. The WGA listing out all of these people had some level of involvement. Of course, some of these names are there multiple times, like Rob Edwards. But
the only way I could think of Jeff Lowe being a part of it is if they had a comic that he wrote that this is based on, because Jeff Loeb was like. They cut ties with him because he was like racist or something. I forget what it was.
I remember that, yeah.
So like, I don't think that they would like. I mean, they'll like. I mean, James Gunn is probably going to have like an additional Jeff Loeb writing credit because he wrote Superman for All Seasons, and that Superman is loosely based on that comic, very very loosely, but it's going to be there. But I don't think he wrote anything because I don't think they want to deal with him specifically after what he said with I mean, he's a great writer. Like I like a lot of his stuff, mainly the stuff he's done with Tim Sale, but like I think he's done enough good that he's like, all right, I'm not gonna say like yeah, no, yeah, that's fine. I'm busting your balls back. That's what we do. That's the camaraderie of us and the audience. Like,
yeah,
we make fun of each other.
I mean, to me,
we're not taking any of this seriously, but yeah, that's just the only thing I have like about
this whole like when I came across this post, I was like, this just screams of too many cooks in the kitchen. But then again, when you look at it a little more closely, Malcolm Spellman and Rob Edwards both get screenplay and story credits, so I can understand that. And then Dallin Moussaoui. So maybe it's a 3-person writing team somehow. I mean, it's not impossible to make that work.
And it's entirely possible that Julius Ona, who's the director, is like, "Hey, let's do this, and that." Like, so I don't know.
He got a writing credit because of that. Yeah.
Because the thing is, I don't know the specific like credit how much you have to write to credit it for the WGA for it to like work like that.
Yeah, the specific requirements is a little different, but also at the same time, like some of these might just be because they wrote in some dialogue, or like they came in and did some, like one of them was a script doctor, like it's like you're just gonna touch up the script. Obviously they've done multiple reshoots, so I can imagine maybe the original screenwriters didn't take part in a lot of the rewrites. Maybe they did, maybe they brought in other people. It's a studio picture that has a lot of people on the writing team, almost enough to make the writer's room for a TV show. And it just concerns me anytime I see that, because it means it's not going to be a singular vision necessarily. But then again, MCU movies sometimes are more like they're like coming off a factory line. Sometimes it feels like it sometimes. And that's not to say you can't make a very poignant solo movie in the MCU. Guardians of the Galaxy movies were great. James Gunn had a very singular vision for those. Even though in the Russo brothers did the Captain America the Winter Soldier, it very much felt like it was their movie. But look
at the original Superman movie. More, I will say 9 times out of 10 when you have a lot of cooks in the kitchen, it fails. That's what I felt it was for like the Spider-Man movies in the MCU. Homecoming and Far From Home I didn't really care of, because it felt like that there were a lot of like conflicting visions.
Yeah.
And that's what it kind of was. And there was like, I've heard that it's like 2 hours and 40 minutes or something, like something ridiculous, but I don't know if that's true or not. That was just the rumor I heard. But sometimes like it can work. Like fucking Iron Man had like 4 writers mainly because they barely had a script and they had to like kind of credit a whole bunch of people. And then I think the original Superman had like 6 writers because they had like an original vision, the Salkinds did, and then like Dick Donner came in and was like, no, don't do that, do this, and hired like Mario Puzo, and then Tom Mankiewicz, I think, wrote a script. So they all kind of jammed all that packed into one thing, and we somehow got like one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. But that's the 1 out of 10 thing. More often than not, if you have more than 3 writers, and I'm talking about screenplay, so this isn't like totally bad, but like it's a little, the screenplay by having 5 writers is a little worrisome. But okay, that's okay. But I think that is a little worrisome. But the thing is, with the amount of rewrites, that is kind of expected. So I don't know. It's like I'm not gonna see the movie anyway, and it's just like even I can't imagine anybody being excited for this. Like, if you are, like, I don't want to shit on you or anything like that, but like, it's just like with everything going on, it's like with all the production problems, and sometimes production problems can warrant a decent movie. Like, fucking, I like Alien 3, and that was the king of production problems. So so it can result in something good. Like, maybe the reshoots did really refine the movie and they made it work. So, I don't know. It's just like a whole mess of things that it could be, really good. It's just like, I don't know, with all this stuff. With all this stuff is just irksome, and it's just like it shows the lack of anything good that I feel like the MCU is like going towards. I don't know if that makes sense.
Look, I think despite everything,
that's fair.
Just what this movie at its core is trying to do to me is interesting enough that I'm like, you know what, I'll give it a shot because I think it might be fun. You're gonna get Red Hulk, like Chris is saying, people are excited for the Red Hulk. And of course, beyond that, you're getting the first movie with the new Captain America. I think there's a lot of ways this can go, a lot of ground to cover, and new story avenues to explore. But then you also have the whole thing about all of a sudden that not Eternal, but what are they called? Like the they're not Eternals, but like the huge giant.
Yeah, the robot things. I don't know what they're called.
Why am I forgetting this? Somebody tell us.
Leave it. Because everyone forgot what the Eternals was about. Like, they were like, oh, the first sex scene of the MCU, and it was like the most sanitized fucking garbage you could. That wouldn't even be aired on fucking Hallmark, let alone like what they had. It's like, oh, it has a sex scene.
Elemental. It's an elemental. The huge elemental in the ocean is become basically adamantium. So I mean, they're addressing adamantium,
all right,
which
Jesus
I'm like, they're
Christ,
getting ready.
Why are we bringing abuse into this chat? Like, come on, get this off the fucking, like, that's
sorry.
I mean, if you can, like, I understand like finding joy in our dark humor. Let's not like showcase that, please. Little too dark.
That's a little too dark. I actually didn't read that.
I hope you're okay though.
But,
we love you, Hosea. Yes. We love. Hope you're doing okay. But yeah, I think it's
also meant to be a more grounded movie. Like, this movie's not gonna have sorcerers.
I love
like
how
Kevin
it's grounded, but they're bringing in Hulk, the leader, and an elemental where they're getting adamantium from.
I know some elements of this is so out there that it's hard to kind of stick. Yeah. It's hard to make it like, grounded while also addressing, because the MCU, I think, jumped the shark a few years ago at this point, right? So it's hard to make, because even when you go back 10 years ago with Captain America, the Winter Soldier, I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy hadn't come out yet, so we hadn't really gone to space proper at that point. I think it came out like a few months after Captain America, the Winter Soldier did, but at the same time, we weren't really in that space yet. And with that in mind, the Winter Soldier could make things grounded and feel like it still was in the same world as the first Iron Man movie. Whereas now you're like, again, no matter how hard you try to make something grounded, the MCU is just full of characters and things that will always feel, like, okay, this, you can't, it can't be as believable as, the Batman, for example, was. But you know what? Like, we'll see. The movie comes out in a month from now, and we'll see what it becomes of it. In the meantime, Sebastian Stan has been doing a lot of talking, and he was on the Late Show or the Late Night with Seth Meyers recently, and he was talking about just at his age now getting in superhero shape. And this is what he had to say. I'm still trying to get back to that shape. I don't know if it's gonna work out at 42 years old. I've grown up with Marvel. I grew as an actor, and with this character, the Winter Soldier. It's like I have a brother in a way, a family member I see for Thanksgiving every year. So again, just kind of talking about trying to get into that Bucky Barnes, physique that the Winter Soldier has for the movies. Of course, he still does like 4 or 5 movies a year, so he's a busy man. He does a lot of different things.
He's
but
a
most of the
different
movies
man.
Yes, he is and he already won a Golden Globe for it too.
Yes, and he won. I sorry, that was too easy of a joke. I had to go there. I'm sorry.
But I'm like, it's common to hear this, but like obviously, Hugh Jackman still came back and got jacked up for Deadpool and Wolverine. So we know that Sebastian Stan is going to be in Thunderbolts. There's also rumors. I mean, I it's hard for me to believe that he's not going to have at least a cameo in Captain America 4. But what do you think? I mean, how much longer do you think he can continue playing the role, considering we have seen other actors already kind of cycle out of their roles, even if they are coming back? So.
I think Thunderbolts might be his last
like feature outing.
But
then again, I mean, what about Secret Wars? Like he's got Doomsday and Secret Wars to be a part of, right? Like if you get
That's true, but I don't think he'll here's the thing, like Thunderbolts is like that's like a big role for him. Like it's an ensemble, but it's like they're mainly selling 3 people in that movie: Yelena Belova, Red Guardian, and Bucky Barnes. Those are like the 3 that are getting a lot of attention, I feel. To the latter 2, Bucky and Red Guardian. So I mean, maybe they can do that, but like, I mean, it didn't happen for Captain America. But I think like Thunderbolts is gonna be the last like really big thing. Like he could be in Doomsday, he could be in Secret Wars, but it'll be a much smaller role. I don't think he's gonna be doing a ton because it's just like I mean, many have said that it's tough to fucking keep that. Like Hugh Jackman has said this many times. Like fucking Henry Cavill, like dehydrating himself for days to do one 10-second shot in The Witcher. And that was one of the things he got like abused for, because it was like the showrunner, who was a woman, wanted more shirtless scenes, and he's like, it's literally fucking killing me. I can't do it anymore. And he's like, I can give you this, but he's like, but he also said, he's like, being the nerd he is, he's like, it's not about the sex. It's about like, that's not what this show and this adaptation, these books, these games are about. Yes, there is sex in it, but like, it's not just that. And on top of the fact, it's hard for me to do this. So it's like, either I have to look the absolute best I have to look with like dehydrating myself, or I don't look as good, and then that's not going to be good. So it's like, and that's what it kind of is like. The beauty standards in Hollywood, I mean, that's like been known for so long. Both, it's very different for both men and women. I mean, it's tough, but that's like the guy side that they got to deal with. Like they have to like look at those. Like I was looking at the images for like Deadpool and Wolverine. Like I know they made the joke like when they had to put the thing like at the end of the movie where his like suit rips off, but then I saw the fucking like photo shoot, and I'm like, I can't imagine anybody finding that hot. Like I'm just looking at him like, this dude probably had to not drink water for a week, and that's all I think about now.
It doesn't, to me, the last time like Hugh Jackman looked good as Wolverine was maybe Days of Future Past. Now I think he just looks like somebody who's going to the gym and trying to be super ripped, and he's like 60 years old, and it just, you see the veiny muscle like
till he's 90.
It just doesn't look. It doesn't look.
But anyway,
the way
we're kind of going off track with that a little
but anyway,
bit. So,
but Sebastian Stan, I mean, he never needed to be like that, like 8 packs or anything. He's most of the time he's got like the robot arm, and he's got his winter years, costume or uniform on. So I for one think he's gonna have a cameo in Captain America 4, even though he has said that he's not in that movie. Of course, it could just be a post-credit sequence that then ties into Thunderbolts that comes out later in the year. But we'll see. We'll see. I can't wait to go to the movie theater and hopefully enjoy both Thunderbolts and Captain America 4 because I want them to be good. The MCU is trying to do something a little more grounded at a time when we have been doing a lot more fantastical ever since Avengers Infinity War, basically aliens and wizards and sorcerers and who whatever else. But speaking of being grounded, the last story in the news today we have to get into is something that literally I just came across before the show started. And that is
cool.
That the Daredevil account, I think this is from Instagram, they posted 7 a.m. Pacific time. That's, of course, 10 a.m. Pacific time. So tomorrow morning, everybody, 10 a.m. Eastern time, 7 a.m.
I'm not
Pacific
waking up
time.
early for the Daredevil Born Again. I'll wake up early for Superman. I'm not waking up for Daredevil.
But like 10 a.m. is not that early, man. 10 a.m. most of the world is
It's early for me.
All right, fair enough, whatever. It's an hour after the Superman trailer came out. It was 9 a.m. Eastern time. But tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern time, Daredevil Born Again releases its first trailer. We had talked about when that was going to be happening.
Very cool.
And now we know for sure that, of course, and that's going to be another one of those grounded properties. It's got, I forget the exact episode count. I know originally they were going to do 18 episodes. I believe they cut that down to like 12 or 13. But still, they've been advertising this is going to be
I think
even
it was going to be like
bloodier
9, and then they were going to take a break, and then they were going to do another 9.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was.
Yep.
I don't know if they're still doing that, but
yeah, I mean, and it's also just, to me, this is the first look at probably, I mean, according to IMDb, or I think it was Fandango, this is the most anticipated show of the year. Like which was surprising to me that Daredevil Born Again is above The Last of Us and some of the other shows. Like Severance is coming out later this week, which we will get into later on. But yeah, I mean, Elite Easy's talking about, Hugh Jackman talked about his diet on Fallon and stuff, and he didn't make it seem like he was doing in an unhealthy way. The shirtless shot was not warranted there. Wouldn't mind if he kept the top on from now. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, but as figure drawing saying, we are brutal, factual yet brutal, which is, yes, that's what we're here for. That's what you guys are tuning in for. I mean, John, what are you most excited to see in this Daredevil Born Again teaser trailer?
I just like the show to be good. I don't think it will be because I still don't trust Disney. I know they said they went back to the drawing board. They threw a lot of stuff out. They're redoing it, but like I still don't trust them. Like I know, it's gonna be darker than the Netflix show. Yeah, bullshit. I'm not gonna my friend who got me into watching Superman and Lois. I'm gonna be like, since I know you're a big Daredevil fan, and specifically the show. He doesn't know much about the comics, but the show, he loves the show. So I'm like, you're my lifeline. If you say this is good and you think I'll like it, tell me. If you think it sucks, tell me. And he's like, I'm gonna watch the first episode. If it's good, I'll let you know. So yeah. I don't totally trust it, but it feels like that going back to the drawing board and like doing everything right now is, a little bit yeah. Like, I don't know, it's just I want it to be good because I love the Netflix series. It's still like arguably the best thing that like Marvel has done, like owned by Disney, like period.
I mean, it was, yes, technically it was for Netflix, funded by Netflix, but now of course it is owned by Disney ultimately, yes. I'm personally, for me, I'm looking forward to seeing just how much they try to tie this in, because now of course we know this is the same Daredevil as the Netflix version, so they're not trying to do like a soft reboot with this. It's even continuing on the story arcs from that show in a lot of ways. So I just want to see just how closely things align in terms of what's canon, what's not canon, how much the costume has changed, and again, like which of the characters maybe we'll be surprised to see return, because we already know a lot of the usual suspects are coming back, but we don't exactly know if all of the Defenders, like Christian Ritter and stuff, like if we're gonna see Luke Cage back in this Jessica Jones, those kind of things. Obviously, the first episode is probably not going to answer all of those questions. I'll just take the show for being in line with what we saw on Netflix, because the action was great. And if you look at the behind the scenes photos, this one's meant to be just as violent, if not even more bloody than the Netflix version. The Punisher is going to be in it. We know that for sure. Jon Bernthal is back playing the character. So of course Charlie Cox, and Daredevil. The trailer drops tomorrow morning, and we'll react to it tomorrow on the news. Before we get into DCU Daily on tomorrow's episode, we'll talk about our reaction to the Daredevil trailer. So until then, we hope that you did enjoy the news. Of course, we're not
ending.
Here doing the news
still got
5 days
DCU
a week.
Daily to do.
Absolutely,
so.
But hit that like button while you're still here. And now, as we always do, let's switch gears, shall we? So, welcome on in to another episode of DCU Daily. We do have to talk about all the happenings in the world of DC, as we always do. Of course, my name is Daniel. Let me put that graphic up there. There you go. If you are new to the channel, we are here 5 days a week. Today, we have to talk about, things like lanterns. We have to talk about Supergirl. I'm just taking a look at all the list of things that we got. Oh, and of course, the first topic is going to be so cute. But before I do get into that, John, how are you doing today? Which of the DC topics are you most excited about today? You are muted.
Sorry, I was blowing my nose, and I don't want you guys to hear that. So, I'm excited for everything because I love DC. So let's get into all of it. Do it. Play the clip.
Let's do it. What clip? There's no clip. I don't know what you're talking about.
Family. There you go.
Oh, okay. Oh, you had to say that first.
I don't have friends. I got family.
I do not acknowledge you, Dan, but or Caleb actually. Sorry, I do acknowledge Dan, of course. And speaking of which, this I just came across before the show as well. Of course, it is from your favorite, comic book writer, John. Tom King shared this. This is an inside look
because it's a cute corgi,
and
so I know cute. You have a corgi, so it works.
It's an unapproved, exactly. It's an unapproved first glimpse of the upcoming Trinity series that Tom King is working on with who he calls the incomparable Belen Ortega. So it's a bird. It's a plane. No, it's Super Corgi, and I have to say, this is probably the cutest thing I came across.
It looks
today,
like the Nirvana album cover with the position a little bit.
Yes, this definitely also just made my day. People are requesting an outfit switch. Oh, I did promise
they want
vest.
They want the vest.
Yes, they want the vest. I can't believe it. I can't believe that the vest is that popular. I should just keep it like nearby somewhere. I'm gonna have to go look for it.
I can talk about the Super Corgi while you go get it.
You know what? That's a good idea. Why don't you do that? Why don't you take over? And
I'll talk about the Super Corgi. Man, Tom King fucking sucks, doesn't he? No, I'm just kidding. But no, but I don't know. It's just Tom King. I know it's I make fun of him all the time, but I will say the one good thing about Tom King's works is the art because he doesn't do it. But look at that adorable little fucker right there. I mean, I love corgis. I wish I could get one. But my dog, I think the dog I have currently would be very jealous. So I don't think she would like that. But I do love a corgi. I remember I saw a picture of a Husk corgi, which is a husky corgi mix, and then a German Shepherd corgi, and they're the cutest fucking things ever. And I think it's deserving Superman gets a corgi because they're the cutest dogs because they have the fattest asses, but then the tiniest little paws and legs, and it's if I feel like corgis came from the workshopped wiener dogs because I don't like dachshunds. They look ugly to me. I don't like them. I love a lot, and I love dogs, but wiener dogs, dachshunds, not a huge fan. Not they just got weird faces. They have super long nails and the body's weird. And God is just all right, I can, that guy, I forget what his name is, but the guy who does the God dog videos. So we're okay, what if we take this dog? It's kind of the similar thing. It still has a long body, but it's furrier. It's furry as fuck. We give him the biggest, fattest asses, and then we give him again, tiny dog, but they're infinitely cuter, and they're like, okay, let's do it. And then we got Corgi. So they're like, I feel like Corgi is like the Wiener Dog 2.0 because it's like similar size, but it's like so much better. And it's I hope it's like this. We get like super pets out of this. Like this is the new crypto. I don't know. That would just I think would be cute. What is it? Fiona saying in Welsh folklore, fairies and elves used Pembroke Welsh corgis as their steeds to pull fairy coaches into herd cattle. That's really interesting.
Oh man, that is actually really cool. That's a cool story.
Cool story,
this
bro.
is the first time I've heard
Yeah,
of that.
corgi. I mean, yeah, of course, Fiona. Corgis mixed with anything are cute. Like, hell yeah. It's just like they're fucking too damn expensive. Because
this is the version of the DC League of Super Pets that we should have gotten. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but no, The Rock is like, no, I gotta be like the cool dog, right? Yeah,
because it's The Rock. Like he's a manly man. He's an alpha male. People talking all good and bad things about Tom King in the chat. By the way, the love story between John and Tom King continues, as Ron was saying. Fairies and elves used Pembroke. That's as their steeds. That's really cool. That's really cool. I think we need to make a movie out of that, Fiona. That's a good idea. We should save that one. In the meantime, yes, we have also got Kevin in the chat. I do acknowledge you, Kevin. And Caleb's
too many
puppies. Yeah.
There's no such thing as too many puppies. I think John Wick would agree.
Yes. Do not touch that corgi. Or
I love the meme where it was like they're like, Thanos, the last Infinity Gem is in that dog, and then he rips apart the dog, and he's like, I didn't find an Infinity Gem, and then John Wick comes in, he's like, where's my dog? Thanos starts sweating.
Poor Thanos, man. Like, he just walked into a shit ton of trouble. Anyway, let's keep the ball rolling, all right? Well, Super Corgi, I hope it does make it to the screen eventually, because it's just the best version of crypto you can possibly have. But we were talking about earlier, we are a month away from Captain America 4. Mm-hmm. Speaking of time, it was 5 years ago, exactly 5 years to the day, that the Flash met the Flash. The worlds collided. One version of the Flash, much more beloved than the other, of course, Grant Gustin on the right.
Yes.
He
Grant
starred
Gustin
in the Flash for 9 years.
So.
And then Ezra Miller on the left. He had one movie that really bombed hard at the box office. John, how do you remember the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover?
I will say I didn't believe this when it first came out. Like, I saw pictures, I'm like, oh, this is like fake, this is Photoshop. No, I'm like, when I watch it, I was still surprised. I was like, oh shit, it's actually real. So I thought that was cool. Like, even though, say we will about Ezra Miller, he wasn't a good Flash, he wasn't a good Barry Allen, but like the fact that they did this, it's kind of cool. It was pretty cool for the time of Crisis and all that. So, I'd like to think that like their Crisis, like, fucking like that actually reset the universe, not Barry like doing timeline shenanigans. This is what actually reset, like, Earth, blah blah blah. The DCEU really became the DCU after this Crisis on Infinite Earths.
I wish it did. Well, but look, at the end of the day, I mean, this was a cool moment because it's so rare that you see like the worlds of TV and movie collide, especially the way the Arrowverse was set up in the DCEU. They were completely separate, doing two very different things. And the fact that they made it happen was, like, oh my God, this is great. And I remember the theorizing that happened at the time. I just remember, I think like my brother was like, hadn't seen it, and I watched it at the time before him. And then I told him about it, and he was actually legitimately mad at me because he was like, dude, why did you ruin it for me? I'm like, I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. But yeah, it was a moment where all of the nerds like nerded out pretty hard. So even though, of course, those two versions of the characters are no longer the ones we're going to be moving forward with, 5 years ago, I think it was still a pretty cool crossover. So it's worth, giving it a mention at least, especially because Grant Gustin's doing really well on Broadway. And we hope, despite all of the controversy and everything surrounding Ezra Miller, that hopefully he's getting his issues taken care of, and seeking help where needed, and then of course being held accountable for his actions. Because he shouldn't just be let off for all the damage that he did, but at the same time, if he does need some therapy or help along the way, then I hope that he's seeking that out. And Grant Gustin is somebody that DC fans would still love to see back, whether it's the Flash or another character, and I would too. So he's a great actor. He still talks about it, in a very glowing light, and so we hope to see him again in the DC world in the future. In the meantime, I wanted to kind of look back a little bit at that initial press conference that Peter Safran and James Gunn did. And they were sort of like, they gave us a bit of a graphic. That's probably the last time we even got a graphic from them, which was, didn't have dates. It didn't have dates at the time because they were so early on in the whole process. But they kind of told us a little bit about, what are these projects in Chapter 1 of the
Back when it was
DCU.
called Superman Legacy. Good times.
Superman Legacy, The Brave and the Bold, the Batman movie, of course, Swamp Thing, The Authority, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Creature Commandos was still sort of like listed as the first project. Then you have Waller in there, Booster Gold, Lanterns, and Paradise Lost. Now, if you look at it like from left to right, so far the first two have stayed the same. Creature Commandos came out first, Superman comes out next. And then after that, I think everything sort of changes because Waller, Authority, and Brave and the Bold, all three of them, are projects that, and even Booster Gold.
And Booster Gold.
Brave and the Bold, Waller, and Booster Gold.
It's funny how it's Lanterns and Supergirl were right next to each other, and then
they moved forward.
Forward.
That might be a hint of things to come. The order in which they're listed, because we'll get into that in a little bit. Elite Easy is like more graphics, please. We need those timelines. Yeah, Marvel has kind of given us that habit. It's almost a dirty habit because I don't know if it's the best way to approach things because James Gunn does not want to.
Casey, the Ezra Miller saga was hilarious. Dude was bugging like a 1940s gangster on crack. We got to save that for the pipeline. That's good.
But dude, when you look at this list, we know James Gunn has addressed Waller, Booster Gold, and Brave and the Bold have all got scripts that are in works in progress. They're not quite there yet. So we have got updates. The Authority, Swamp Thing, and Paradise Lost, on the other hand, but Swamp Thing and Paradise Lost were the farthest down. Those three, we'd have almost no idea what's going on with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lanterns and Supergirl have moved forward, and of course we have had new announcements. Like we know that Creature Commandos is going to have a second season. We know there's a Clayface movie now. We also know that Peacemaker is part of the cinematic universe, so Peacemaker season 2 comes out. So of course a lot has changed. Some gaps have been filled in. But just what are your thoughts on just how this slate has evolved, and do you think we're going to see just as much of an evolution moving forward, considering that James Gunn isn't, trying to do the approach that Marvel has, where they'll announce a slate with dates on a timeline and try to like meet those dates? He's much more open-ended about that. Like, whenever a script is done, that's what comes next. Like, what are your thoughts on, again, how this slate has evolved since they first announced it?
I feel like we're going to be getting, I think, like, because he really wanted, because I mean he did say like Waller, he wanted that to come out after Superman, but Peacemaker took its place because of the writer strikes, so they're kind of figuring that out. Same with Booster Gold and Brave and the Bold. The Authority, we've got nothing on. Same with Paradise Lost and Swamp Thing. So I think whatever we do get, I mean Grant Gustin's was in Water for Elephants. But yeah, whatever we do get, I think hopefully it's gonna be good. Like, that's really the best we can hope for. Whatever the order is, it'll service the story and it'll work in the end.
Yep. We got Hunter Iggy in the chat. He's calling us the Spice Boys. Interesting.
Okay.
I don't know. Hunter Iggy always comes in with a very interesting comment. But hey, hello to you, Hunter. Elite Easy C's chart. So that was a effing lie. I can just see the meme with like the desperate the
So
Real
that was
Housewives.
a fucking lie.
And then James Gunn is like the cat, like that's the meme that this.
I know. I was thinking Tyler the Creator. So that was a fucking lie.
But I'm just thinking of that one in my mind. But anyway,
I think that's what Elise.
I know that's where the reference is from. But hey, look, the evolution of the DC timeline, the DCU timeline continues, and we'll see where it ends up eventually. But in the meantime, the evolution of the Arkham universe, the Arkhamverse, and the games continues, because apparently at the end of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, it's revealed now that the Batman that died was a clone and that our real Arkhamverse Batman is
Yeah,
still
they
alive.
fucking had to write that in. So, like, please don't hate us. We swear he's not dead. But it's like, yeah, you already made that fucking shitstorm for yourself. Like, you already fucked that up. Like, no matter what you do, because it's like, I understand they couldn't do anything about it. Like, Kevin Conroy did the lines, he died, and they can't, like, just delay the game indefinitely to fucking redo everything. Like, they can't do that. Like, I understand that. But well, you could have just not released it because it sucked anyway, and you fucking nobody's playing this garbage anymore. So, like, okay, fine. But, like, you could have just but the fact that it's like Kevin Conroy like doing all this shit, and then it's like Harley Quinn, a hated character, fucking kills him. It's just like, even then, okay, cool, it wasn't the real Batman, but it still feels disingenuous, and people are still gonna be upset. Like, yeah, it's Rocksteady's a joke because all the good people, all the veterans fucking left because of all the fucking mandates and Sweet Baby Inc. and all this other garbage that had to, be inserted into this fucking game. They're like, fuck this. And I mean, there's the VR game, which I heard was like fine. And then, they plan to do more Arkhamverse games, but I don't know how the fuck they're going to do it. The only thing I can think of is like more prequels with Troy Baker as Batman, because that's, or was it Roger Craig Smith? No, I think it was Troy Baker. But yeah, just that's the only way you could fucking do it, because no Kevin Conroy. What's the point? The whole point of like the Arkhamverse was like the more adult version of Batman the Animated Series. That's what, like, I mean, with Paul Dini writing the first 2 games, that's what it was. So yeah, I mean, anything that begins, any gaming company that begins with an R has gone down the shitter. Rocksteady, Rare, and Rockstar. All 3 of those are just not as good as what they once were. Like, it's not even close. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean,
agree.
it's just interesting to see how, again, they're just sort of like, retconned the whole game right at the end, which, it was just a dream. They were just clones. Interesting. But hey, you know what? Let's keep the ball. We're gonna flash back a little bit to a time before the Arrowverse, even. And recently, I'll let you read this quote, John, because you were a bigger fan of Smallville than I was. Tom Welling talked about, his favorite part of Smallville, essentially. Take it over.
Yeah. So. Yeah, which is funny because my friend loves this show, and he's like, was the best look for Tom Welling in this show. Yeah, I think it is based on the fact that, like, Smallville was originally supposed to be a Batman prequel show. It was supposed to be called Bruce Wayne. They considered Tom Welling, they considered, I think, somebody else. But yeah, they had like a show Bible for it and everything. And like Alfred Goff and, Miller, I think it was, they were like, yeah, let's do a Batman show. And they're like, no, I don't think they could do it. They didn't have the rights, or they preferred a Superman show. Forget why. But yeah, it was, I mean, I never watched the show, but like, yeah, this does sound kind of dumb, because it's like, what's the point? If, like, why are we making Superman a vigilante?
Basically, Batman, and it felt weird to me too, because I was like, why not? I know they were trying not to do like a full blown Superman, but it did feel like out of touch with what the character was, or is. It wasn't true to the character.
I mean, a lot of things in this, show was like not true to the character, in terms of, because they really played it loosey goosey with the backstory. So,
it's just interesting to, again, Tom Welling is not talking about. I feel like he talks more about it now than he has ever had before, because it's like he's
okay. So
sort of,
here's what it was. Sorry to cut you off, but like, so it was originally, so there was going to be a Bruce Wayne TV series. It was kind of like Gotham, but like not really. He wouldn't have been a kid. He would have been like more of like a teenager. but it was Tim McCanley's, and then I think the other guys came in, but it was in the late 1990s. And the reason that it didn't happen because Darren Aronofsky's Batman Year One was like going to happen like at that point. So they're like, let's not do that. We're gonna do Darren Aronofsky's Batman Year One instead, and then that never happened. And then they favored to do a Superman show instead by somebody different. They Tim McCanley's was just like he fucked off. He wasn't part of the show. But yeah, it was like they had a show Bible. They had like a script for like an hour-long pilot. No. You're gonna go back to that other one. You're gonna go back to that other one. And then you yell at me for liking Cobra Kai. What is this? What is this? Please tell me you're joking. If you're joking, haha, good joke. It's funny. It's funny. But like, nah. Nah. No. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. Dan has a headache. I have chest pains. I don't want to like have a heart attack on air. So let's not get in. No. We're not doing this.
This could be a very monumental episode of DCU Daily. But let's keep the ball rolling though. The last piece of news I wanted to, it's not really news, but it's more just kind of, again, just justice for Batman. And even though this particular one is not about Matt Reeves, somebody posted an opinion article on Screen Rant, which sort of lines up with what we have been talking about recently. And Andy Muschietti's comments just seem to keep, almost sort of reinforcing the idea that maybe, at least in the eyes of the fans of us, like just that maybe Andy Muschietti is not the best man for the job. Like maybe he shouldn't be the one directing Batman Brave and the Bold.
Right.
Because again, when he explained what he thought was the reason for why The Flash, was a flop, because it was a lack of audience's interest because it didn't appeal to the four quadrants and all that stuff. I mean, he did address a little bit that, the DCEU was a dying franchise and, the Flash had taken so long to come through and, so he did acknowledge some of the other reasons, but it just seems like, again, because he's got like one or two other movies that he wants to do before he even gets to Brave and the Bold. He's got a show that's going to have, up to 3 seasons, Welcome to Derry, that he's strongly involved in and potentially even show running, at least directing a few episodes. He's got so many, he's got his hands in so many different pies that for him to still be attached to direct DCU's Brave and the Bold movie, which is going to be, as I say here, one of the most important installments in the entire franchise, given that it's freaking Batman.
Easy. Let's not get crazy here.
I'm just like, to me, this is again just reinforcing the idea that maybe James Gunn made a mistake here, and maybe he should just go with somebody different. I mean, John.
Yeah, I mean that's
where are you
definitely
at with
the
this
case
right now?
here. Like, I still can't comprehend how James Gunn picked this guy. Like, I just like everything. Like the only thing I can think of that it's like he felt bad that this movie sucked. Maybe Andy Muschietti really had no control. Like maybe he really was like, I had nothing to show for this movie. It was all WB's like, where's my electric car, Bruce? Anyway, I think that's what you're trying to showcase with that. But it like it's Jameson's like, all right, fine, here's Batman, do something with that. And it's just like, but like everything precursor, it's like it just doesn't seem like a good business decision. Like I feel like everything leading up to, and especially now, like Andy Muschietti being like, oh yeah, women were the reason why this movie failed, like blaming the fans, not blaming everybody but himself. That's like just set up for disaster. And I feel like it's just because because people have said like they want to defend James Gunn and be like, okay, the reason he said The Flash was good was, he was just hyping the movie so people would actually fucking see the damn thing. But it's just like, I don't know, with picking Andy Muschietti, maybe he legit thinks The Flash is a good movie. I mean, if he does, fine, whatever. But it's just like, it's just most people, Yeah, that's great. You should go to therapy for that, Andy. But it's just like it's just looking at it from a logistical sense, it just doesn't work. It doesn't. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. It's this movie bombed hard. Um, both of them. Why are you saying James Gunn? He's the CEO. He's not going anywhere. Um, but it's just it just doesn't make sense to me because it's like this movie bombed hard. Like it was like the only way this movie was gonna break even if it like fucking made $1 billion with how many like failed attempts there were to make this damn movie since like the mid 2000s. So, it's oh, and well, I don't think Matt's a problem personally. I think he's just trying his best, and it's just that people are impatient. I think that's the case. Um, but it's just the movie bombed critically and financially. Like the movie was DOA, but like it went through like so many different directors. It just didn't do what people like. It was a confusing, stupid mess of a movie, and it was filled with annoying characters, bad comedy, bad CGI. Yeah. Um, I could kind of understand, like, oh, okay, that's. And then, like, they also like inserted jokes that Ezra Miller is a piece of shit, like the baby in the microwave. It's like, haha, I get it. Look how much of a piece of shit he is. Like, he puts babies in microwaves. So it's just like, okay, that's weird. But it's just weird, and it's just like it does. I'm trying to like find. I'm a man of logic. I try to figure it out logistically from a business point of view, from a fan point of view, from an everything point of view. Um, exactly. Poor Elite Easy. You're right on the money there. Um, but yeah, as a like, it's just like I don't know. It's just such a weird choice. There's so many other better directors that maybe need redemption. Like I would love to see Neil Marshall try another superhero movie. I don't think Hellboy was his fault because he said the movie was taken away from him, and I think Neil Marshall could do a really cool Batman movie. But if you want to do something more crazy, like I think Bong Joon Ho could do a really cool Batman movie. I don't think he would ever do it, but I'm just saying that I think that would be awesome. Um, I know he's probably too busy, but Anton Fuqua could probably do a good Batman movie. I always wanted David Fincher, but like David Fincher would never do a superhero movie. Fucking never. I know he wanted to be like he wanted to do Spider-Man like this way, and they're like, fuck no. And then they got Sam Raimi instead, and thank God they did. But it's just Guillermo del Toro could do a good Batman movie. Um, but I just think there's just so many, and hell, get an up and comer, like get someone who's like like who's had like some good blockbuster prestige behind him, but like really needs that jump to make it like really good. And I think just get someone like that because like Andy Muschietti is clearly showing as of right now, the past like week or so, that he's really not the right fit. He either needs to shut the fuck up and just do this movie or just say bye-bye because we're like done. And James Gunn's busy doing his own thing. Like he's doing post-production for Superman. He's like trying to like find like he's like Supergirl and Lanterns Supergirl allegedly started filming yesterday, and then Batman or not Batman, Lanterns is filming next month, and it's just like, guys, like he's a busy man. Don't fucking deal with this. That's I mean, Caleb, you could do it. I could do it. Dan could do a fucking
Caleb's
better
being
Batman movie than
sarcastic,
this
but
fool.
yes.
But yeah,
Elite Easy, by the way, with a good suggestion. I think Antoine Fuqua, dude, that guy's rate is about to go through the roof once Michael comes out and it hits $1 billion. They've already made they are working on a fourth like Fallen movie, like it's Night Has Fallen, a sequel to like the Olympus Has Fallen, what was the second? London Has Fallen, Angel Has Fallen. But those were I think Antoine Fuqua directed the first two of them, and he's been producing them since. But I mean, yeah, Elite Easy says love Antoine Fuqua. He likes practical effects, right? But I don't want Brave and the Bold to be grounded, fantastical, technicolor bats, please. It depends. I don't think we're really ever gonna get a live action Batman that's gonna be like the blue and gray necessarily, because James Gunn has already said they want this to feel a little more grounded. The grounded word gets used around a lot. Caleb is saying I wasn't being sarcastic, Dan. Well, Caleb, in that case, go talk to James Gunn. We're not the ones making those decisions. But anyway, I think Antoine Fuqua could do a good job too. But I mean, to get to that point, we'll first have to see if Andy Muschietti is getting fired.
Same here. I want to be a director too, but dreams are only dreams for right now.
Yeah, Elite Easy, by the way, suggesting we should probably get a different cinematographer than what we had for The Flash, if Andy Muschietti plans on working with that same cinematographer again.
That same cinematographer is working on Superman, so oops.
Yeah. Now I will say this. Look, we're gonna get a more fantastical version of Batman, and this is similar to maybe how Ben Affleck's Batman was more fantastical in the sense that he could exist next to Superman and Aquaman and Cyborg and Wonder Woman and just all these other characters. Just there were these meta-humans where Batman didn't look out of place, whereas Robert Pattinson's the Batman and Christian Bale's Batman, like they will feel out of place in those situations. But yeah, I mean, grounded to a certain degree is what I'm saying. It's not going to be the same as the Dark Knight or the Batman grounded. But I will say the other thing Andy Muschietti did say was that he acknowledged that maybe he used a little too much CGI in that movie, and maybe that didn't go well with the audience. And I do agree with you, Andy. You use way too much CGI and over relying on it, and quite frankly, a lot of it looked unfinished. And we see right through you when you try to make the excuse that it was meant to look that way.
Yeah.
Because seriously, you could have literally gotten, one of the live action photography plates from Henry Cavill's Superman rather than giving us an animated shirtless Superman. Why would you do that? And the Christopher Reeve thing, the whole Nicolas Cage coming in and even doing a live act, like he came in dressed in the Superman live suit and you still animated it. I don't understand why you would do that. It just didn't. I think maybe he was like, oh, it just needs to match everything else, so animate him too. But I just don't agree with it. I don't agree with it. And then We're the Cape asking a good question of, is Andy even a big Batman fan? The way he talks about the movie, I don't know. And that's one of the biggest things I think that worries us as fans. I'm not saying like you need to be, a Batman stan to be, eligible to direct the movie. Right. Christopher Nolan, I don't think he reads Batman comics, day and night. But clearly he was a good filmmaker. I think right now we're looking at Andy Muschietti's, overall resume, and we don't see, everything that he's worked on as being a hit. And I think it will help if he's a fan of Batman. But the way he's talked about the movie in recent weeks makes you wonder just how invested he is in the project, and that's the concerning part. I think that's really the problem here. Not so much like whether he's a fan of the character. It's more just how invested is he in the project. Just how much does this matter to him? Because Batman is one of the biggest characters in all of media, and the Batman franchise. The last time a Batman movie made less than 500 million at the box office was, you would have to go all the way back to Batman Begins. It's been 2 decades. Like every Batman movie makes at least like $700 million, right? So
yeah,
you're not dealing with a small franchise. You're dealing with one of, if not the most popular superhero of all time. So
if we're talking about like adjusted for technically the first Batman movie, Batman 89, made only 411, which was a lot for the time, and especially compared to the budget. So but if we're like adjusting for inflation and like comparing the profit, then it's like, yeah, it's, guys, come on.
Hello, Martel or Martrell. We're seeing you for the first time in the chat. Hello to you. Guillermo del Toro could do a great Clayface movie.
We did talk about that. Yes,
we did talk. There was a couple episodes of DCU Daily where we actually did a fan.
Yeah, Lead Easy. The Batman did 770 million. I believe that's what it was. Like something along those lines.
The Batman, yeah.
The Batman.
The Batman made like $770 million. Absolutely. I mean, it was the highest grossing Batman movie, the highest grossing Batman solo movie since, it was the first Batman solo movie since The Dark Knight Rises. But, The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises both made $1 billion. I believe Batman Begins made somewhere between 400 and 500 million. But that was, on the back, basically 6 years after, on the back end of a Batman franchise in the 90s that was just down the drain. So it had a lot of, it had to build up a lot of goodwill, kind of similar to how the Superman movie has to rebuild goodwill with DC as a brand. Batman Begins had to rebuild goodwill amongst the fans and the viewing audience with the character of Batman after Batman and Robin, completely tanked the overall perception and reputation of the character at the movies at least. So yeah, I'd imagine that this Batman movie coming out after we have had the Batman and potentially the Batman Part 2, because I don't think Brave and the Bold comes out any sooner than 2028. It will have an easier path to success, but it still needs to be a good film. Like, you can't just guarantee 700 million at the box office. We'll get into that later this week about how superhero movies no longer can just make money by default. Like, they need to be good. They need to have something unique to offer. But yeah, the Batman did more than 500 million coming off of COVID. Yes, it did. I mean, Easy was like 770 million, as Antonio was saying. It made 770 million in a 45-day release window. Usually in the past it would be like a 90-day release window, 3 months, and it did it in half as much time, like coming out of COVID. So clearly, Batman is one of the most bankable franchises in all of Hollywood. So do you want to really trust that to Andy Muschietti, who only seems half interested in it? He's also a director for hire in this project. He's not writing the script, and the way he's talking about the project makes you wonder just how much he's going to care for this. Maybe that lack of care and passion resulted in unfinished CGI for The Flash. And do we want to repeat that again? That you start to wonder, like Andy Muschietti's not helping his case when he's talking the way that he is.
Exactly. It was totally women. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Batman Begins did make over 300 million. Yeah. Good question by Fiona here on the chat. She's like, have y'all hit the like button yet? That's a good question. That is a good question.
Great question, guys. Come on.
If you're new and you're joining us for the first time, we are here 5 days a week on DCU Daily, so you can check us out Monday through Friday. But please do hit the like button so that way we can get this video out and all the other videos that we have, the live shows, in front of even bigger audience. We can grow our community. We have people in the chat usually from Portugal, from Canada, from the United States, of course, from Bolivia, from Australia, the UK, Ireland, Scotland, England, all the different, kingdoms of the
Scotland.
United Kingdom.
Lenny has entered the chat. But I think it's too late for her.
We have a ton of people watching from India, like from Asia Pacific, from different parts of the world, from Africa, from of course the different parts of Americas. We have a big community already, and we do enjoy you guys having tuning in each and every day. Of course, Ron says he has hit the like button. Thank you, Ron. With that said, though, John, let's kind of move into the main topic of the day, shall we? I'm going to switch gears because we have been talking about the Batman or Batman in general for a while. Let's talk about Lantern, shall we? Green Lantern. Recently, I came across a story earlier this afternoon that maybe the Lantern show is actually coming out before Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow.
Yeah, that was on that slate we did, like way back when.
I mean, it was always sort of hinted at that it was going to come out around the same time. James Gunn has said that it's going to come out around the same time as Supergirl. Nobody said, and especially not James Gunn, that it was going to come out before Supergirl, right? Because we've always sort of wondered that, it's probably going to follow up after Supergirl coming out in July. But now they're saying here, I mean, this is from DC Updates, so take it with a grain of salt because it's not really sourced from one of the big trades. It's not coming from James Gunn. It's not coming officially from Warner Brothers or DC Studios. But it's expected that it's an 8-episode TV series. We knew the episode count was going to be 8 episodes, starring Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan, starring Aaron Pierre as our Jon Stewart. It's going to release before Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, so early, summer 2026. John, where do you think it lands? Because now that we think about it, 8 episodes equals basically 2 months. If we're getting Supergirl in July, then, and of course we know this show is going into production later this year, or not too long from now, actually in weeks from now. Just how early in 2026 is it going to come out?
I can only imagine that it's like, because I know Supergirl's supposed to come out the 26th. I can imagine it's probably going to be like the same month.
Do you think they're going to overlap? So like you will
early,
have episodes.
Yeah, I think like early June. Maybe late May. I don't think it's going to be too much earlier because it's like a month later. But I think like Supergirl is like going to be more effects heavy. I don't think this is going to be super effects heavy because it's a TV budget and they want to like save as much as they can. So I can only imagine that they're probably going to be more, what's the word I'm looking for? Like more reserved with the effects and all that stuff. Because I mean, they said True Detectives with Green Lantern, so it's like okay, that's mainly Earth stuff. Which, I mean, I don't love it, but I don't hate it either. I hate it for different reasons. But I
Oh, you
think
mean because Tom King is involved?
because Tom King is executive
Or
producer,
Damon
yes.
Lindelof is part of
Or
the.
honestly, as I said at this point, I trust Damon Lindelof more than fucking Tom King. Like at least Damon Lindelof has made like one good thing. But in terms of DC, that is. But yeah, it's just I can imagine like it's probably going to overlap at the very most, like maybe May. I think that's like as far as it will go. I don't think it's going to be like February or March. But yeah, early summer. I think that makes sense. Like May or June.
Yeah. 8 episodes is pretty much the standard for most,
Great
limited
Britain
series.
has entered the chat.
Oh,
we've made 3 episodes over the course of 30 years.
You know what show does a great job with the whole limited format, but they still put out a new season every year? Slow Horses on Apple TV Plus. Slow Horse, I mean, it's got of course, our good old, Commissioner Gordon in the lead role. I'm forgetting his name right now, but Gary Oldman in the lead. It's got Jack Lowden, who I will continue to say could be the next James Bond. He should be the next James Bond. A great all-around cast. And that show has usually got a 6 to 8 episode season. It's done like 3 or 4 seasons already. And each time the season ends, they have like a preview of the next season. Like they'll give you a whole 1 minute long trailer for the next season. Like coming up on the next, it's almost like, wait a second, are they like running a season behind? Which they might be in the US, but I love the fact that Slow Horses comes out with a new season each and every year, and we're not like, oh, Severance had a new, first season come out 4 years ago, and you're finally getting season 2. Even though the creator of the show hopes that the next season comes out like a year from now, but it's like with the House of the Dragon, for example, like 2 years between seasons. It's just the whole thing. I hope that if they do more than one season of Lanterns, we get it a year apart. Or maybe 2 years apart at most. Like I don't want these really extensive delays. But as far as the 8 episode format goes, the Penguin was 8 episodes. The Creature Commando show was 7 episodes. It does make sense that if it's going to be a limited series and they're going to have a budget of like let's say $25 to $50 million per episode, that they would only do 8 of them, because despite the fact that it's going to be grounded, there's still going to be plenty of visual effects in this. It's a Green Lantern show. I think if the Green Lantern show didn't have any of the lanterns using their rings, then James Gunn would probably get a lot of hate mail, so I don't think that will be a problem. Caleb saying, sup Great Britain, love fish and chips. Fish and chips when done well is fantastic. Manolo in the chat now. Hello to Manolo. We got Super Blink. We haven't seen you in the chat before.
Michael Cera should be the next Bond. Gotta have the stash from Youth and Revolt.
We should do a whole special on that. I mean, well, as long as the Broccoli's and Amazon can figure out what they want to do with the character in the first place, because that seems to be a problem right now. Well, yeah, Elite EZ, MCU does limited series, but lately they are a chore, unlike Creature Commandos. Yes, it's been one of those situations where I think the MCU has not given us some of their best characters. Like they seem to have treated their TV shows as a place to introduce new characters or like mid-tier characters and then move them into the movies, which I think is a problem because like look at what DC is doing. The Penguin was in a Batman movie, then went to his TV show. He's gonna be back in the Batman Part 2, and then the Lantern characters are gonna be like part of the Justice League. Like Aaron Pierre is gonna be in movies playing, John Stewart. So to have him start out on a TV show, all of a sudden you're raising the profile of what DC on TV is gonna look like moving forward, and then you can transition him into like a Justice League movie or a Green Lantern movie. I like that they're making or not making, but like blurring the boundaries between what DC is gonna be willing to put on TV versus at the movies. They're not gonna like all of a sudden be like, oh, we're only gonna put. I mean, granted, Superman, Batman are most likely only gonna be in a movie, but Paradise Lost, there's a chance. There's very much chance that the first time we see the DC Wonder Woman could be in the HBO show Paradise Lost, even though it's meant to take place in the past.
Yeah, because
maybe
you
there's
could
like
like
a
do like
sequence
the
where you
what is it, the fisherman's narrative, where it's like you're looking
yes,
back on like, oh, this is like maybe Wonder Woman is explaining to Steve Trevor the lore, and it's like here's the history of Themyscira and doing that. So I mean that could be the case. Let's hope for Adria Arjona because she's great. Um, you know, I agree. Too many MCU origin story shows. They make and care about the TV shows like that. Love the flashback format for Creature Commando's origins and went down easy. Yeah, like exactly like flashbacks. It's kind of easy to digest and that kind of thing. So
yeah,
if they do that for Paradise Lost.
yeah. And as long as the runtime, like TC24 was saying, as long as you get full episodes, like the Penguin, each week was a meal. Like you got a full episode, you were satisfied, you wanted more, and as long as we're getting that, yeah, I'm all for it. We're the Cape saying that they make caring about the TV shows. I like that. Exactly. I mean, they're giving a priority to the TV shows in a way that I think the MCU still doesn't do. Like they treat their TV shows as like secondary to the movies. Whereas with DC so far, we're seeing that hey, one of their first TV shows is gonna be, of course, Peacemaker, which already he was a character that started off in the movies, and has had crossovers with other characters that were in the movies in season one. With the Justice League cameo at the end. I'm sure we're gonna have some kind of superhero from like Superman or one of the other bigger characters. They're gonna come up at some point in Peacemaker season 2, and then with Lanterns you're getting a full-fledged Justice League character in a TV show. And that's not even it. I mean, we talked about Paradise Lost. We know Booster Gold is gonna have his own TV show. Those are all characters that will end up in the movies. There'll probably be several
played by Glenn
A-listers
Powell.
there. We don't know that yet. Let's
I
not
know. I'm
spread
just
false rumor.
No. Played by Chris Pratt.
And then, of course, Manolo's saying that, James Gunn promised no homework. I do appreciate that, too, because they will try to keep it to a point where the stories, you can enjoy them, you can watch Lanterns, but then if you watch a movie involving the Lanterns, you don't need to have seen the show. Like, you won't have to do homework watching, like, 5 shows and 3 movies to go watch the next thing. And I appreciate that, because even with Superman, like the story is going to be largely contained. It takes place over the course of a few days. Like if you miss Rick Flag Sr. and Creature Commandos and Superman, you can still watch Peacemaker season 2 and be perfectly fine, because the role of the character is gonna, it's gonna be just isolated well enough, and you're gonna get enough of an introduction to who these characters are in each show or movie they are a part of, that you won't have to worry about going back and watching something else. And you know what? Quite frankly, the MCU did that really well for the first 3 or 4 phases. It's only like since Avengers Endgame, it feels like they've tried to get away from that philosophy, and it's really hurt them. Because we're now, seeing things like the Marvels flop because people are like, I had to have seen WandaVision and Miss Marvel to then understand what 2 out of the 3 leads in the Marvels was. It's a lot to ask for, because most people don't have the time, the patience, the energy, or the interest, quite frankly, to see everything that comes out in the MCU. I hate the idea that each thing they put out feels like an episode that's then an advertisement for like what's coming next. I want these things to feel like what the early MCU days were, where you go watch an Iron Man movie, it exists on its own, you can have fun with it, you can skip Thor and Captain America and then go see Avengers and still know who Thor and Captain America are. And similarly, I hope that when we go to see the Lantern show, we can then go watch, I don't know, Batman Brave and the Bold, or like when they make a Justice League movie and things, kind of gel together. But if you skip Lanterns, you can still enjoy those other projects just as much. That's what I hope for. Yeah. Ron, by the way, is saying the Lanterns 8 episodes is just enough. He doesn't have any problems with that. And you know what? Honestly, if they're well made,
as long as it's like the Penguin, where it's like it's no filler, it's cutting to the chase, it like subverts like, you think it's going to go one way, but then it's like, nope, we're cutting out the fat and we're immediately going to this thing. And as long as they do that, then it could be good. But again, I don't know. I'm still on the fence. So
dude, do you remember like episode 4 or 5, and how you were like, oh my god, we thought this was going to slow down, and all of a sudden it's like picking up, and there were like big.
I can see Chris Pratt as Hannibal, man. That could be cool.
Yep.
The rubber duck. Do you mean Howard the Duck?
I don't know. I mean, isn't Howard the Duck getting a project in the MCU? I don't know.
I hope so. I would watch a Howard the Duck show, like Seth Green as Howard the Duck, because I know they just did an episode of What If where like he and Darcy have a child together or something, or like Darcy
Huh?
Lewis. Yeah.
God, that's why do we need that? Why do nobody care?
I mean, they already were on the border of bestiality in the fucking movie with Leah Thompson, so it's like, yeah. I remember James Gunn saying that all of them are going to be week by week basis, just like Creature Commandos. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think, yeah. I agree. It builds up more. It builds up, it builds up like more hype. Hype is the word I'm looking for. Alan Richard, I don't think they're going to bring in New Gods this early, because that was one of the things I genuinely fucking hated about the Snyderverse is they brought in New Gods like immediately, and then like Darkseid gets yeeted immediately, and it's like, what? Why? What is it like? He's supposed to, like, I hate to bring in, like, I mean, okay, Endgame was a term before the Avengers fucking took hold of it, but
No, but the idea that
Dark
like
Side is like the end of
Yeah.
it all, like, essentially. I mean, they can fight him multiple times, but like he's supposed to be like the big bad of like everything. Like Darkseid is like the biggest Justice League villain. So it's like, okay. I feel like that's a bait.
Yeah,
You look
probably.
at Two Girls, One Cup
Yeah.
on Google, and then you're like, oh shit. I feel like that's
Anyway.
a
By the way, TC24 has a good point, because, dude, we're about to get into a period of time where you're gonna have Severance, The Last of Us. I mean, Severance is Apple TV Plus, but The Last of Us is gonna be going on. Daredevil Born Again is gonna be on at the same time. It's gonna be a good time if you're, a fan of genre television. But then, yeah, HBO the next 2 years, they are really cooking, because we've got the Game of Thrones spin, the prequel, I think, Night of the Seven Kingdoms. You have The Last of Us season 2 coming out in April. House of the Dragon with another season coming soon. Lanterns coming out next year, which we're talking about. Speaking of which, there's the other piece of news that, I mean, it's not really news because we have discussed it before, but talking about things that are a month away, we're literally a month away also from Lanterns going into production. We know Supergirl went into production just yesterday, January 13th. So now it's shooting at the Leavesden Studios in London. And of course, we have even seen, supposedly David Cornsweet hanging about in London. So maybe he'll film his part of the movie over the course of the next few weeks. But we also know that Lanterns, the TV series that we've been talking about, does start filming in February 13th. And they will also start filming at the Leavesden Studios in London, where DC, as James Gunn mentioned last year when we got the news that they were planning on doing a big expansion of Leavesden, DC Studios is going to have a big presence there. They've already shot parts of Superman there. They're shooting Supergirl, Lanterns. I can't imagine, they'll probably shoot the Batman part 2 parts of that there as well. And then the new Harry Potter TV series is going to shoot there too. So, John, what are your thoughts on this? Again, just we're a month away. Just again, the tangibilization of the idea that, hey, we've got our actors, and they're, Aaron Pierre's already been working out for the role. Kyle Chandler's, currently busy with, probably some promotional work for Back in Action on Netflix. But then, this is his next big project.
poor guy. But yeah, it's like exciting, just like, oh, another DC project is happening. Like things are really starting to like get going. But it's just like, it's one of those things. I'm so fucking skeptical about this show that I just can't like be, oh my god, I'm so excited for this. It's just like, I can't. I want to be. I really want to be. I hope I'm proven wrong. But the thing is, you have to like have some sort of like big climactic threat. Like I feel like it's just like with Darkseid, he shouldn't be the like, I didn't like it when they did it in the DC AMU, and I didn't like, he should not be the first villain. At the very least, he should not be the first villain that the Justice League fights. Do like Amazo or the Legion of Doom / Injustice League. Do even Brainiac can work as a Justice League villain. He's a big one too. Just like, don't just don't fucking do Darkseid immediately. I just, well, like, okay, fine, you don't agree about the Endgame stuff, that's fine, but like he shouldn't be the first threat the Justice League fights and then like immediately gets fucking killed after. So it's like, what's the point? So I don't know. I just felt like I didn't really care for that, and I don't like that. Like I don't mind them fighting like Darkseid multiple times. He doesn't have to be big, but in terms of like an ongoing universe, might as well all that. But if he isn't, then just don't have him be the first like one. Like don't have like new god shit be like introduced immediately. Yeah, and that's fine. I don't mind that. Like that's it's because it's different from the MCU, and that's what they're trying to do, and I appreciate that. But it's just I don't want them to be. It's just like it feels just so. I don't know. Fucking just don't do Darkseid immediately. Because one, it's like, oh, you're ripping off the Snyderverse, or oh, you're ripping off Thanos, and it's like, I don't want that. Like, fucking do the Legion of Doom for the first.
By the way,
one.
I think what James Gunn was saying was we have like a world that they're building, and we're not necessarily telling one story that leads to one climax. But obviously, there will be some level of like a climax to the chapter 1 Gods and Monsters. But we have Gilgo's 90. I mean, we haven't seen you in the chat before. Thank you so much for stopping by, and we hope that you're going to stick around. But the question was, one of my priorities for the DCU is hopefully to get all the different Lantern Corps being introduced into the DCU, being the anchor of an epic cosmic side. Kind of like what James Gunn did with the Guardians of the Galaxy, John. What do you think? We've already got 3 Lanterns. Like, do you feel like we're going to get more of them? Like the different Jessica Cruz and like even like the more alien versions of the Lanterns? Like, how soon do we get there?
I think I think the Lantern should be the cosmics at the like that. I don't know if it's like how epic it should be, but that like when I was building my own like fan fiction DCEU way back when, I viewed it like the world of DC is split into 3 things, and that's Earth-based threats, like realistic grounded threats, cosmic threats, and mystic threats, like essentially Earth, space, magic. I feel like most of DC stuff can be split into those 3 things. Like Earth counts like with like metahumans, science, that kind of thing. But I think those are the 3 things. So those should be that trifecta should be the anchor point of like a universe, because I feel like that like works in terms of like generalization, and like so when you're building that out over the course of the universe, like you can go back to those 3 simple points. It's like, okay, like for when I was doing it, like the 3 big points was like, okay, like when I built a Man of Steel trilogy, like that started like the whole thing. Like the first one was cosmic, the second one was earth based, and the third one was magic. So I was like, all right, let's well, I mean, it just because it's new gods doesn't have to mean like gods, like Paradise Lost, Themyscira, Greek gods.
That's I was saying that in the chat. I mean, Wonder Woman's technically a demigod, so the gods of like Olympus might show up. We obviously had them in the DCEU with all the flashback sequences. So yeah, I mean Lex Luthor, I don't know if he's Lex Author. I'm sure you meant to say Lex Luthor. I'm sure he's not gonna end up being the big bad, but he's probably gonna be one of those, villains that keeps coming back. Like they're not gonna do a one and done with him. Even the DCEU wanted to kind of have him stick around, obviously. But a good point by KC saying again, literally Gods and Monsters is the name of this chapter. So we will get them eventually. It's just which ones do we get? We've kind of speculated that the center is going to be part of the antagonistic forces of this mystery that the Lanterns are trying to solve, and then that will probably tie into something that's more galactic, more cosmic, because James Gunn has hinted that the scope of what they're investigating in Green Lanterns or Lanterns, the TV show, is going to be much bigger than just the show itself. Like it's going to tie into the larger story of Chapter 1 Gods and Monsters. So, but then again, everything we know about this Gods and Monsters so far, this first phase or chapter of the DCU, it's so far they said that it was like James Gunn said is Chapter 1 Part 1. Like there's even more that we don't even know about yet. And so this might go on for like the first 10 years. And so far, there's no Justice League movie in sight. So however long it takes for us to get there, hopefully we'll get there sooner than later. But we still have to introduce like half the Justice Leaguers. We don't have an Aquaman in this universe yet. We don't have a Flash. James Gunn said they're taking a beat on development of the Flash. Those are his words. We know we're not doing an Aquaman anytime soon, considering that Jason Momoa just signed up to do Lobo. And they probably want to let that character rest for a bit because he just had a movie come out last year, or the year, I think 2023. But they want to take maybe a few years gap there. Wonder Woman, we're probably not getting one anytime soon. Paradise Lost is a prequel. We may get a bit of a hint at who our Wonder Woman is, but certainly no individual projects. And then even the Batman Brave and the Bold movie may not come out until 2028, by which point we might get a Superman sequel. If Superman is great and it's a huge hit this year, I can imagine James Gunn like gets the Superman sequel up and running and gets it out there by 2028 or certainly by 2029. So
right,
yeah, we're still a long ways away, and I like it because they're building up. Like, do you guys remember that by the time we got our first Avengers movie, we had 2 Iron Man movies come out. By the time we got to the second Avengers movie, the Iron Man trilogy was done. Like, they took their time to develop those characters early on, and clearly it paid off.
Yeah, although to be fair, Iron Man 2
became by Endgame
planned to be part of Phase 1. That's just what happened with, like, it was supposed to be Ant-Man, and Ant-Man was supposed to be part of the Avengers, but Edgar Wright had some trouble getting it off the ground, and
and then they changed what they wanted the movie to be. The Wasp was supposed to be in the first Avengers movie instead of Black Widow. Like, all those things kind of changed up. So yeah. And the Manolo saying I wouldn't take the Gods and Monsters quote literally. Yeah, but I mean it's also they've hinted they've said as much that it's gods and monsters. I'm not saying that means we get new gods, but yes, we will get some level of gods, and obviously with Clayface we're getting monsters already. Creature Commandos is all about the monsters, so it's just the gods part of it.
You wanted monsters
yet, so
you're gonna get monsters.
Yeah.
Put her in water, see what happens. Yeeted.
I don't know, Yash, what are you saying? Are we okay? What's wrong? What do you mean? Are we?
We're
okay?
good.
Yeah.
I mean, Dan has a bit of a headache. I think I have some heartburn, but
yeah, we're kind of a little tired.
We're tired. It's almost midnight.
By the way, I would have liked to see what the Edgar Wright Ant-Man would have looked like. Maybe he
would have
to
been
do
fucking
it if
amazing.
They do a soft reboot.
It would have been fucking amazing.
Yeah.
It would have been better than the garbage we got. Fuck that movie.
Yep. Elite Easy's like new gods, old gods. I'm not ageist. Yeah, exactly. Wonder Woman, Darkseid, like whichever direction you want to go in. I mean, Cersei. We have already seen Cersei, so there you go. There's technically a god, in a manner of speaking. Yeah. If they do, yeah. Casey's saying the chapter's name is Gods and Monsters. If they don't make a new Gods movie, I will. Well, look, we don't have any hints that they're gonna do it anytime soon. Ava DuVernay's New Gods movie died out a long time ago, so yeah, I don't know if you're gonna get that anytime soon. Like John said, I wouldn't use that up this early. Like, wait, like you don't need to do Thanos right out the gate. Like even though if Marvel did it, doesn't mean you have to do it. And Darkseid in the comics is way more powerful than Thanos is. It's almost a false comparison in terms of like how the two characters are compared. Even because Thanos is like a derivative of Darkseid in a lot of ways. And Darkseid came first, and Thanos was created as like Marvel's answer to the character. But in the comics, Darkseid's story is much, much more fantastical, and the New Gods is like a whole thing unto itself. You can't just do one New Gods movie. You have to introduce all the different characters. You can do a whole series of New Gods movies and then bring them into like the from the fourth world into our world. I want to see all of that explored. Like Jack Kirby created such a fantastic world that I don't want it to be just one movie and all of a sudden Darkseid is taking on the Justice League. I would like for them to kind of expand on that a little bit more. But then Ron saying gods, they might just be referring to metahumans, not actual gods like Superman and Green Lantern. I think that's a good way to look at it, potentially, because like Superman is godlike. Although, considering that James Gunn showed us the first shot in the Superman trailer of Superman bleeding on the Arctic tundra, I think they're trying not to portray these superheroes as absolute god-like beings like Zack Snyder did. I think they're trying to get away from that. So maybe when they do say gods and monsters, I think with Creature Commandos, you've got the monsters. With somebody like Cersei, you've got the gods. So I think they're going for more of the mythological gods, but I do see where you're going with that interpretation. I just don't think that's what James Gunn was thinking about, at least not in its entirety. But we'll see. So far, of all the projects you've announced, John, do you see any project that's an obvious pick for where those god-like characters are going to be? Or so
Paradise
far,
Lost could
yeah,
work. That I feel like kind of makes sense. I mean, Swamp Thing kind of has like I mean, he's not like God, but like the green and the red and the rot are all like kind of very beyond like our plane of existence, so that could like kind of feed into like the godlike entities of like like more the magical side and that kind of thing. But it's yeah, I don't, there's not a ton about the god stuff. Like the only thing that's literal god is Paradise Lost, because that deals with Greek mythology. So we'll see. Like, I think like Superman. Superman is considered a god. Apollo is like a Superman parallel, and he's like kind of like a god. And then Supergirl has the same powers. She's like, so it's like I think it's god-esque. Like they have the powers like of a god, what seems like a
right,
god to the normal person. So I think that's probably the closest that we're gonna have, and Paradise Lost, and that's kind
right,
of it.
yeah.
So
I agree. I think we're ways off from getting, like the fourth world of characters with Darkseid and stuff. But hey, in the meantime, as Ron once said, remember to fight for justice, because whether it's Matt Reeves or Andy Muschietti, please take your Batman seriously. I implore you. But hey, you know what? It's another episode of DCU Daily. And thankfully today we've not been on as long as we've done 3-hour shows, man, of late. But and we do appreciate you guys sticking around through like those long shows. But today there wasn't as much news to get into, but we did talk about everything we came across. If you missed anything, let us know in the chat or down below in the comments. Thank you as always. If you haven't already, like John is doing there, tap that like button, hit that subscribe button, because
we see
we're
the
here 5 days a
analytics.
week.
Like 30 of you are watching and only 15 likes. Come on,
Yeah.
guys.
Also, like half of you guys are not subscribed. What are you guys doing? If you're watching us often enough, like they will just make it easier for you to find all the new content we've got coming out. We were talking about DC 5 days a week. We have movie reviews, once a week. We do MCU weekly, so regardless of which comic book flag you fly, we're here for you. And of course, hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. We'll be back tomorrow again with another live show. Thank you so much for everybody joining in. We got some new names in the chat today. We've got the usual suspects. Ron is here, and yes, he does say fight for justice. Casey saying the parliaments could be considered gods. Yeah, could be. Even the lanterns are low-key gods. The first lantern was an old god, TC24 saying. Exactly. So yes, we are getting gods and monsters in many different ways. But with that said, guys, we'll be back tomorrow. Until then, go out there, watch something DC related, come back and talk to us about it, because we'll be here. And John, thank you so much as always. We'll see you next time on another episode of DCU Daily.
Bat nipples.